In a world filled with hostility, a love between a werewolf and a vampire is destined to be forbidden. Chapter 13 Kale. I retreat to our basement gym, a sanctuary of sweat and iron. I unleash my pent-up frustration on the punching bag. Despite the force behind each blow, the restlessness refuses to leave my body. An primal urge to yell, bite, and destroy everything in sight consumes me, with tomorrow's full moon feeling like an eternity away. The door creaks open, and Rainer enters with Lysander in tow for our training session. My eyes lock onto Lysander like a predator stalking its prey. Unbeknownst to him, I'd spent hours hidden along the border trail earlier, ensuring his safe return from the valley. His mere presence ignites a fire within me, fueling my agitation and an insatiable need for his approval. I assault the bag with renewed vigor, cursing under my breath. Satu's hill. Lysander's presence reverberates through me, but he doesn't spare me a glance. The urge to do something, anything, to capture his attention grows stronger with each passing moment. I pummel the bag harder, the impact echoing through the room. Beside me, Rainer maintains a facade of politeness, a stark contrast to my barely contained fury as our shifts approach. I envy his semblance of control, however small it may be. It's like a ghost town out there today, Lysander remarks to Rainer, his voice sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. He retrieves a set of wraps from the locker near the door and approaches my brother, who extends his hands in a familiar gesture. Their easy camaraderie grates on my nerves, providing a convenient target for my mounting anger. Rainer's response is distant and polite. Yeah. Our wolves tend to stay inside or wander off alone until the moon ceremony tomorrow morning. Less confrontation that way, with everyone ready to bite each other's heads off over dumb shit. I watch, seething, as Lysander meticulously wraps Rainer's hands. Each touch, each transfer of scent between them, ignites a primal desire to tear them apart. Lysander's voice cuts through my jealous haze like a knife. The pack mites to lift with would gather all of the wolves together in the days leading up to the full moon. The alpha thought it would help them release their tension to just beat the shit out of each other. Rainer grins, but I can't bring myself to soften my glare. Look at me, I silently plead. When Lysander looks up at my brother with those captivating hazel eyes, jealousy surges within me like a dark, poisonous beast. This obsession with him feels uncontrollable. After tomorrow it will be better, at least that's what I keep telling myself. I assault the bag with increasing ferocity until Rainer taps my shoulder and nods toward the mats. Let's go, pup. I've got an itch that no bag's in a scratch. For the first time today, a genuine grin spreads across my face as I give into the feral energy threatening to consume me. No groin shots, I warn. Deal. He agrees, then catches me off guard with an uppercut that sends me reeling. The metallic taste of blood filling my mouth. I'll go grab my medkit, Lysander announces from somewhere behind me. As I regain my footing, a predatory grin spreads across my face. With a surge of adrenaline, I unleash everything I've been holding back on Rainer, our sparring session quickly devolving into a brutal dance of fists and fury. As the sun rises on Moon Morn, I hear the beckoning howl of my alpha sever my thoughts, piercing through my body's functions, pulling me toward him, luring me so innately it's as if I slip into a trance. The howls continue, and will continue, until the entirety of the pack arrives at the ceremonial grounds. I can feel the symmetry between all of us build within my coursing blood. There's energy in it, taming the chaos that has ruled over the past day. My drive, my aggression, and restlessness are all aimed at one goal and serve one purpose: getting to my alpha. Rainer is ahead of me as we hustle down the front stairs of the pack house. He jogs toward the grassy clearing at the base of the trail that leads to Arima's Rock, and I divert to the right toward the cluster of cottages where I know Elderbeck will need help. I rap my knuckles on his door before opening it with a hasty morning. And to you, young alpha. He wheezes out and shuffles toward me, putting weight on his cane, one feeble foot dragging behind him. I hold the door as he drags past me, his cane, free hand squeezing a tension ball. I tuck his hand through my arm, bony, blue veined fingers clutching to me. Several eyebrow hairs stick straight out like antennae over his scouring eyes and beak-like nose. Looks like you've taken a good beating recently. He grimaces at my bruised hands, eyes, and cheeks, then moves on. As such sights are common on Moon Morn. Good day for a shift, nice and clear. We'll get a good view of the moon this evening. Yet weather is supposed to hold for the next few days. Were you able to see Master Lysander this week? Omi said he was distributing some new herbs and tonics and there was one that could help you. He coughed, sweat and phlegm. Why? That vampire came by. But I don't need his help. What me.丨gives me works fine. The spike of annoyance that races through me is hard to conceal with my wolf so close to the surface. Beck. Chia some master water. He made better medicine to help you. Maybe so. But thanks to his king. I stopped trusting vampires a long time ago. So he can keep his special medicine for the others. He uses my old title, but I don't comment on it. It's just his way. I clench my lips tight and breathe through my frustration. Then work hard to change the subject. How's your daughter? Lainey is good. She's with pup. Should be due this winter. I heard. Congratulations. Yes, it will be pleasant to have a pup around, but it will be congratulations if she can get that male to make her. I peer over his scraggy hair and grooved wrinkles. I thought she didn't want to make Hawthorne. Well, it's a little late to be getting choose why. She's a smart and capable wolf. I think she'll be fine whether she chooses a mate or not. And the pup will have the entire pack looking out for them. He lifts a scruffy eyebrow and chooses not to contradict me any further, though the distaste twisting his features easy to read. We shuffle through the gathering wolves, finding Beck a spot up close. Rainer sees us and shoulders his way through the crowd to greet the old wolf. How you doing, Beck? Beck grunts more than offers any intelligible response, and Rainer bites back a smile. Then the elder male looks him up and down. I see you look like pulverized meat as well. Would think you'd be able to handle a younger she. Always good to see you. Beck, I just talked to Lainey. Congratulations. I narrow my eyes at Rainer, which only encourages him to push further. She'll be a great mother. That's a lucky pup she'll have. Well, tell that to Hawthorne. Rainer pats him on the arm. She can do better than Hawthorne. Is it so wrong for me to want her to be properly taken care of? He grumbles and looks around. Where's my chair? I was promised a chair by that pushy vampire. I spot a grouping of chairs several feet to our right. Rainer and I direct Beck between small clusters of conversing wolves and help him take a seat. Once Chia situated, and grousing to himself, Rainer and I bow and make our way to our mother's side across the clearing. He bumps my shoulder. Did he hit you with his shit the whole way over here? Yet began with Lysander not being good enough to serve him medicine and ended with his daughter not being good enough to be mated with anyone. I huff and drib a hand through my thick hair, noting that I need a haircut. Except that I know Lysander likes it long. That's pleasant. And impressed you managed not to deck him in the face. I snort. I don't deck upstanding pack members in the face. He points to his bruised cheeks, red eyes, and split lip. Last night, you deserved it. And I said, upstanding pack members. Hilarious. About Master Lysander what? My arms tense. Look, he used tough love and made his point. No one liked getting their ass handed to them. But the wolves respect him. We've all moved past what happened. But there's hesitation around following his lead again until you do. Everyone is looking to you to understand if you approve of him still helping us or not. I'm reminded of the larger scope of all of my actions. Nothing is simple. Nothing that involves the pack can be clouded by my personal issues. In a defining moment, my father speaks of them often, recognizing the ripples each one of our decisions create. This is when I get to choose what kind of leader I want to be, what kind of example I strive to set. Nor fix it. His role has not changed. We stand shoulder to shoulder, Rainer between me and our mother. The Omega rots in a circle around the clearing, emitting peace, pack, love. The crowd drifts into odd silence as she paces by, the energy in our pack link settling from its usual frenetic simmer. Only the birds dare break the hush as our alpha marches into the center of the clearing. Relief cradles all of my tension, as it does each Moon Morn. when he spreads his arms out and flings his head back, accepting the power of the impending moon. Kale, please join me in leading the ceremonies. The request is unprecedented, but I break rank beside my brother and take my father's hand, mirroring his position. We bow our heads as one, close our eyes, and listen for our alpha's words streaming through pack bombs into our minds. Sata has blessed us with this thunder moon. We welcome the storms it brings to our earth and the nourishment it gives to every wolf. We ask that she watch over us during our sacred shifts, and we thank her for gracing us with her most divine blessings, the Omega and Master Water. We humbly accept them into our pack as our own and endeavor to honor them in the ways they deserve. May each of us be safe, steady in mind, pure in heart, and strong in defense of our pack. By airing this blood, we are the Silver Blood Pack. We shout in unison, a common thrill surging from my core and wrapping my words in unmistakable pride. Our heads lift and eyes blink open. I spot Lysander across the circle. The Omega sits at his feet, both of them singularly focused on my father. Lysander catches my eyes, and I hold his gaze for as long as I can, drinking him in and willing him to feel me through some cosmic connection I've come to believe that we might share, in not projecting any specific emotion toward him. Just me. Here. Something private we might share so that I don't have to feel like this anymore. There's a buzzing tingle as my body reacts to the vampire, keeping me locked in his sights as he heads this way. I come with an offer of peace, he says, his usual teasing absent from his tone. I hope that I might be allowed to prepare you for your shit as a warder to his alpha. Did I hear him correctly? You said that you have no intention of committing to me. So why would you offer me such an honor? Because of the sentiment I resent having to admit, he says, the admission voice more like a private confession. And what is that? He hesitates before saying, you humble me. I humble you. I bark out a laugh. Yes, he replies on a huff as HES is equally thrown by the idea. I know this offer of preparing me isn't casual. This means something to him. Something cultivated with deep respect. It would be my honor. Water. Emotion darkens his eyes. Wonder-struck and overwhelmed. The honor is mine. Kill. Lysander sweeps soft fingers over each of my bruises, studying me while half lost in thought. My breath catches and my shoulders sink, leaking tension, and his heart beats faster when I allow myself to lean into his touch. Wariness lingers between us. Not overt, but like an old bruise, so when pressed. But there is something else as well, a stronger bond of respect and accord. You look better than I expected after the state I left you in Rainer and last night. We're used to it. I break my gaze to nod hello to Omega, and then point to the deltas and hunting Gamma S pairing off and separating the pack into smaller, manageable groups. On Moon Morn, we create small groups within the pack based upon needs. Each group has the deltas guiding them through the shift and looking out for them to be sure no one gets hurt or lost. Each group also has a Gamma that will hunt and bring food that the smaller groups can eat from, though each wolf is free to hunt for themselves if they choose. We had an incident several years ago where an elderly wolf and a pup wandered off in a snowstorm and we couldn't find them for days. We nearly lost the older male from freezing to death. The pup had managed to stay warm enough under the fur of the older wolf, but practically starved to death. Since then, we are sure to keep each wolf better accounted for. I tip my head toward where several Gamma S are addressing their groups and going through equipment. They're making sure they know all of the hunting abilities of each wolf in their group, and any dietary restrictions. What kind of dietary restrictions? Lysander asks. Young pups and older wolves can't process some of the foods the same way. Meat can be tough for them to chew and digest, and certain plants can cause stomach issues. Gesturing toward a small group of older she, I say, and Lainey over there is pregnant. So the Gamma will want to know that so she can make sure she's not eating anything that could harm her or the pup. Omega absorbs the scene with interest. Are any wolves unable to shift? No. I look at Lysander to translate her question for him. So far, we've been lucky, and everyone can still shift and make it to the moon field. I expect within the next few years that some of the elders will begin to lose the ability. With a quake of anticipation, I say to Lysander, I'm ready when you are. I follow him to the chair where HES stashed the bag on the ground. He pulls it to him and smothers a grin as he instructs. You'll need to remove your clothes and spread your arms and legs out wide. I arch an eyebrow and kick off my shoes, tuck my shirt over my head, and drop my pants to the ground, my arms open wide. I will him to look at me and approve. I've read what to expect during this rite, but actually receiving his care is something else entirely. Everything in the background slips out of focus, keeping only him in crystal clarity. His breath is shallow as he looks me over and clears his throat. I'm going to start by getting a feel for you. See if I find any knots or muscles that need attention or any tightness that might distress your shift. Okay. He lightly presses against my back, warm fingers tender on my skin. Then both hands splay, reverently exploring and tracing each contour of muscle. I close my eyes, glad I'm facing away from the crowd where no one can see my body responding. No one except him. He glides his hands up my arms, leaving a trail of goosens as he grazes over my shoulders, neck, and into my hair, meeting my scalp. He steps against my back, his body heat protective, a barrier preserving this between only us. My head rolls back, seeking the pressure of his fingers, wanting to be buried in his touch and attention. It's hard to swallow as his warm breath fans over my skin, making my own breath thick and stilted. And I pray to Saturn that this doesn't stop anytime soon. He moves behind me, and if I turn my head I could swallow his exhales, pull them inside me as my own. Hands caress my sides and knead my hips, and I restrain myself from pressing back against him. Then fingers rub over my ass, massaging each cheek, palming a fistful before scratching down my thighs. Sweet goddess. The scent of lust is heavy in the air as he circles around to my front and lowers to his knees. His face is nearly level with my erection, already beaded with cum. As he scrubs through my leg hair and palms my calves, fingers pressing into the muscles. Goddess, keep me from thrusting into his face. His breath rasps out his throat against my abs and chest as he rises, puckering my nipples, and I squeeze my eyes shut, imagining him flicking his tongue out to tease them. I swallow back a groan as he stands and steadies himself with a hand on my shoulder. I can't look at him. Not yet. When I'm finally able to open my lids, I'm greeted by hazel eyes almost wholly eaten by black pupils, swallowed in a haze of desire. He licks his lips, inches from my own, and we stare at each other for several heady seconds until he steps back. Though it hardly breaks the spell, I look down to where he clasps my hands and turns them over, inspecting the garish red marks and split knuckles and the healing remains of my poison ivy. His voice is husky, unrecognizable. We'll put an ointment on the cuts to help keep out some of the dirt while you're running around after your shift. Hopefully, it will minimize any risk of infection. It takes me a few breaths to collect myself enough to answer. It's never been a problem before. He smirks. Luckily, at least this time, it will be one less thing to worry about. The last thing we need is the future alpha being taken out by a preventable infection. He bites his lip, restraining a smile. It wouldn't look good for my reputation. I grin and peer up into the blue sky, a rush of dominion surging from my chest out to my fingertips. Of course, that would be the worst part of that scenario. My eyes drift shut again to the increasing warmth of the rising sun, and I soak in the buzz of my impending shift. With his hands on me, somehow thought that he commits to or get to experience this every month. They'll get this now. Whose touch is like a pilgrim who's finally found his altar of worship. And whoever they are, I hate them. All right, Kale. The soft refinement of his speech interrupts my thoughts. Go ahead and shift, and they'll look over your wolf. We both ignore my painfully hard as I lower to my knees and lift my chest and arms up, embracing the stretch of muscles and the first crack of joints. The pain condenses into a centralized point until exploding outward. A quick series of pops and physical transformations that include fur, teeth, and snout. I land on for massive paws and shake out my grafer, standing proudly before him, my head reaching the middle of his chest. He waits for me to bow my head, a signal of acceptance. With gentle confidence, he runs a hand from the top of my head down my back and circles me, keeping contact, parting my fur and pressing his scent against the skin underneath. He cups my snout with two hands and acquaints himself with my wolf, granting access for me to step in. Smell him. Leave my tongue along his neck and collarbone, tasting the salt on his skin. Now that you're in your wolf form and can't talk back, I can admit that I kind of missed you annoying me these past few days. My nose pokes into his armpit and up under his jaw with a responding huff. He grins broadly and encourages the exploration, holding me close as I mark him. My wolf feels invincible from his submission, preening under his easy hold. The openness between us creates a potent mix inside me, resonating with one clear thought: I need him to stay. Chapter 14 Last End. Cull and I set out early the morning after the full moon, heading toward the diamond pack. Most of the pack is still in their wolf form, either wandering the woods and coast or huddled somewhere recovering. My ears have finally stopped ringing from the high, uncomfortable pitches of their incessant howls. Hale leads us along a rugged delta track while I rail a few steps behind. The northern edge of pack territory is a dense wall of thin trees and sheer rock face. We pause at the pack line and wait for our guard escort. The changing landscape is a fresh reminder of how big Shadow's world is and how small we all are. I wonder how deep this pack is hidden within the towering mountains, cloaked by the scent of evergreens and muted by the fading calls of the thrushes. Within minutes of our arrival, a broad male with dark skin and long hair pulled into a high bun pushes through thick foliage to greet us. The pack guard bows to Kale in greeting. Young Alpha. Then to me. I am Delta Castle. We welcome you to the land of the Diamond Pack, and may it bless your stay. Thank you, Delta. We're grateful for your safe passage. I want to reach out and squeeze Kale's hand. Acknowledge the kindling of pride at the cool confidence in his voice. Instead, I remain upright and aloof, unsure that Kale would want to appear so chummy with a vampire in front of a foreign pack. Castle waves first to follow his lead, crooking his chin over his shoulder to say, "Well, hike until dinner and then set up camp for the night. After the full moon last night and the long trip today, ensure you all would welcome some rest." I defer to Kale, as is my role in these situations. It thrills me to be acting in this manner as an alpha sworder. I can see the future beside him, and the image is tempting, but I'm not confident I could be content living so disconnected from my coven for the rest of my life. Warders choose that life, and it's admirable, but they aren't princes with the same sense of duty to our coven. I've always thought of the coven as partly mine, one today to be wholly so, and to lose that, to lose all the hopes and prayers I clung to as a child, a vision of what my coven could be if I could just survive my uncle, feels like it'd be letting my younger self down. I owe it to myself and to my coven to be there, and though there is more to the story than me simply defeating Frederick and claiming rule. One day, if I kill him, I will have my time as king. Sounds good, Delta, Kale says, his deep bass snapping me back into the present. He grins at me and winks, more relaxed than I've seen him in weeks. Castle smiles, gap-toothed. I've never met a master warrior before, he says to me. Always hoped I would. It's an honor. I smirk and puff out my chest, mostly to annoy Kale. It is all my pleasure, Delta. Kale rolls his eyes as I say, I'm honored you let us come visit. Kale here has never ventured this far north. Isn't that right, young Alpha? He cuts me a sharp look like I'm up to no good. That's right. I've mostly stuck to my pack's lands and some of the communal grounds. Like Serpent Valley. I've never been to Serpent Valley, Castle says. We get our goods ferried in from there, but our Alpha gets squirrely about anyone trekking that far. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. That's mostly because we have so many elders in our pack and they do have a hard time physically making the trip. His point is soon made as we traverse extreme inclines until coming upon an open grass, sweat field that rolls toward a nearby mountain. He cocks his head toward me, displaying his hands out over the open land. You can set your tent up anywhere near here. He'll stay in my wolf form for the night and patrol while you both sleep. And while you're getting situated, he'll start the fire and prepare dinner. Thank you, Castle. Kale reaches over and unstraps the tent bag from the bottom of my hiking pack. Let's set it up there. I point to a spot nearer to the rush of stream water and a better view of the yellow wildflowers and verdant mountain vista. Though I suppose the scenery hardly matters when I know I'll spend most of my time looking in. After dinner, we lay side by side on top of my open sleeping bag with the door flat flipped open, listening to the faint rustling of the cool wind outside. I stretch on my back and Cale does the same, though he's restless, rolling his head from one side to the other. Is it your shift that's bothering you? No, what is it? You haven't stopped fidgeting since we got in here. The gray of his eyes lights with something I can only describe as trouble. You haven't had any blood since you've come to our pack, have you? It's fine. I wave it off. I got some blood when I was in Serpent Valley the other day. I can continue doing that. You got blood in the valley. How about a bag of it? Cale rolls onto his side and props himself on an elbow, head resting in his large palm. I can see him wrestling with whatever it is is about to say. And that satisfied your need. I shrug. Enough. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. There's nothing that can compare to a live vein, I say, mostly to shock him. His eyes shrink into piercing slits and his breathing thickens. Not the response I expected. What is it? His focus drifts from my mouth to my bare chest. I was wondering if you'd like to drink from me. My eyes blow wide in surprise and my fangs throb as breath shudder out of me. And I scramble for an answer. Any coherent answer. But words are too hard right now. I want it so badly and dread it just as much. I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. My very interested demands attention as I rub a hand over my face, stalling. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. My throat is dry. To try to sound very convincing. This is what I've wanted since even before meeting him, and now I fear one taste won't be nearly enough. Consider it my own offer of peace. He grips my hand and squeezes it. No, Cale. It can't be because you think you owe me something. I want it. I want this with you. He pauses and licks his parted lips before adding, I want to give it to you. That statement arouses me in 10 different ways, new ways. Potent ways that I'm not prepared for. I swallow thickly, searching his face and body for any apprehension. I don't find so much as a muscle twitch. I lick my lips, quickly calculating the potential fallout from this decision. We can't ride. But if it starts hurting you in any way, you tell me to pull off. That's non-negotiable. Deal, how's in the first, he says, eyes flaring with entirely too much desire. Where do you want to take it from? Satu, help me. Somewhere neutral. You'll rest. My heart pounds a nearly deafening beat in my ears as he lifts his arm to my mouth, inching in with a gleam of discovery in his eyes. I stroke his hand and place a gentle kiss over the vein. Doing this with him feels sacred. Like each touch cements our fate, setting us both firmly on an inescapable course. He sucks in a breath and my fangs elongate, painfully ready as they've been since the first time I ever saw him. Every part of me is primed for two things, taking in his blood and getting off. The wildness in his eyes tips me over the edge as my fangs sink into soft, warm flesh, causing both of us to elicit deep groans of pleasure. Finally, is all I can think. I suck in the richest blood, letting it sit on my tongue before swallowing it, savoring it. The power it hammers through me, and am vaguely aware of him reaching down to rub his. With each draw from him, Cale's pupils glow with fervent lust. He yanks his wrist free, but I have to quickly clutch it back till it closed the wounds. He straddles me and I drop my hands to his hips to keep him there so that he knows I'm right here with him, wanting this just as much, basking in the warm air on my skin as he releases a caged breath. Yet he might as well be setting off a strip of landmines. Fingertips trace along my throat until it's over my pulse. A light pressure of ownership, and I squeeze my eyes shut because I don't know what else to do. I fought so hard to not let anyone have control over me. Yet I can't deny that I'm recklessly close to offering him my full submission. He traces the grooves and curves of my body, drawing lines from freckle to freckle. Goosen strides in the wake of his touch, and my grip on him tightens as more of his weight settles on me, anchoring me, and I fight the urge to spout off a million sentimental promises. His nose presses into the curve of my neck, followed by the lave of his tongue on my skin. There's a moan and a thrust of his hips, tongue and mouth working over my jaw and my lips. Satu, Help me. His touch is everywhere, igniting me to such a degree I imagine this is what it must feel like to be burned alive. But all I can do is lean my head back further, granting better access for the soft glide of his nose and press of his kisses. With a dry, audible swallow, I toss my head to the side, whilst to this fantasy come to life. He rubs back and forth against my skin, mocking me, taking me in. You smell so fucking good. Our thrusts become harder. A steadier pace as his large hand drifts over my stomach and down my thigh where he squeezes, digging his nails and then leaving red marks on the pale skin. I lift my hips in response, a building rhythm of give and take, chasing the pleasure, allowing all my E's and C's to snap and crumble. I want you to bite my neck, he says, urgent, without any beat of fear or consequence. My eyes spring open and in shock my heart doesn't give out. I want you to bite my neck and then I want to taste you. He pants. Goddess. Kale. I tangle my hands in his hair and pull his neck to me, piercing his vein. He drops more of his weight on me, bringing us closer. And I can't touch enough of his body or taste enough of him in my mouth. I want to melt him inside my skin until our vitals fuse, joining us in ways I've never considered with another. But I know that what's between us can't last, so I aim to wreck him while I can. Yes, Kale. Only the words beat through me. I dig my fingers into his hair as he dips his nose into the crook of my neck, where he sucks in my scent then shoots over my stomach, striping my pale skin with his seed. Blood trickles down his neck as he puts his mouth to mine, shoving his tongue inside and tasting a lingering hint of himself. His blood, his essence in my mouth. He moans and nips my neck, kissing down to my hardened nipples where he licks and sucks, making me harder than I've ever been in my life. You can get blood from me from now on, he says. My grin bubbles into quiet laughter, and I wipe a smudge of blood from his neck. Glad you approve. I might need to up my intake if that's the case. He leans forward, lips pausing over mine. Slowly, he inches forward and kisses me, so lightly as to almost not feel it, testing the difference of intimacy. The pressure remains a delicate brush as he takes my mouth in lazy strokes and languorous pulls with deceptively soft lips and sweeps of his tongue. His hand cups the side of my face, and it's the first time I think anyone has made me feel precious. With one final press of our lips, he rolls off of me and settles against my side, studying the puncture marks on his wrist and poking at the raw flesh. I've never felt like that before, he confesses. I didn't know your bite would feel so good. It's like I was drunk. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. My chest was pounding so hard. The wonder on his face makes me light and floaty and tired. Satiated tingle spreading from my head downward. Same, I say with a contented grin. You know, we can do that other stuff even when I don't need blood. The young alpha's body shakes with laughter, eyes crinkling with a new depth of affection. Not to worry, Lysander. I plan on it. His humor dies as he presses his lips to my shoulder and places his palm on my chest. Will I see you again after you leave our pack? I don't answer right away. But when I do, it's with a tender kiss to the top of his head. It's all I can offer for now. Because if he learns the truth of who I am, I'm not sure that HED still want me. Chapter 15. Kale, Lysander says, motioning toward the approaching delta. His brown hair is worn long today, pulled back from his face with a thin leather band. He greets us with friendly dark blue eyes and an affable grin. Good morning, he says, then bows. If you're both ready, we'll lead you to Alpha and IVI. It's a few hours hike from here. You'll be staying in our pack guest cottage and we'll have full use of our land and food. Whatever you need, just let me know. I'm here to make sure your stay with us is as pleasant as possible. Thank you, Delta. He accepts my thanks with a gracious bow and waves us to follow. Lysander rests at my side as we trail our guide, and we feel like a formidable team. Is this what the future could look like? The thought hits me like a far-off, impossible dream. But what if I actually did it? What if I fully let and ask Lysander to reconsider committing to me? What would my father think while stepping aside for me? Nerves churn in my stomach, though I'm not certain it's strictly out of fear anymore. There are fissures of hope mixed in. Excitement, A spark of astonishment at the thought that maybe I can do this as long as this vampire is here to help me. Which is something I've never had before. A true confidant. A peer supporter. An equal. Within 4 hours, we reach a small wood cabin overlooking a massive blue lake and idyllic roll of waves against white rocky shores. I've never seen this side of Lake Megan before. The southern tip reaches the communal lands just beyond the northeast edge of our packland where traders ship food, mercantile, and other goods up to packs like the Diamonds and Glacier Ridge. This is your cottage for your stay here, Castle says, pushing open the door and extending a hand for us to make our way past him. It's beautiful, Lysander says as he steps inside and gazes out a large picture window. Glad you like it. The lake is cold but tolerable this time of year if you want to get in. And this cabin will give you good views of sunset, he says, pointing out a few other perks: a kettle for tea, small cooler for food, and a closet of fishing gear. He'll let you get settled. This trail out front will lead you to the main pack home. I'm going there now and we'll meet you as soon as you're ready. Thank you, Hilda, I reply. There are 2 bedrooms, and I hesitate. What if he and I were to let our guards down while we're here? What if we allowed ourselves to open up, to trust, to just be, and see what happens? I want it with an urgent sort of ferocity. I need to know him before I lose him. I slide past his muscular frame and drop our bags into the same room, causing him to raise an eyebrow. There's desire burgeoning in his eyes and lacing his scent as I give him a hot once-over. We're just getting started. Vampire. His pale cheeks emblazon red. I run a finger down the length of Lys and arrest neck and hear his breath catch, which inspires me to lean in close to his ear and breathe him in. Was the rare raw spark of connection last night a fluke? Did it feel like more because of him drinking my blood? Will each time with him feel like uncovering truth? I need to know if last night's passion was real or some strange vampire effect triggered by his bite. I'm not sure this is what he meant by us getting settled in. He teases though and his voice hitches. Seems like he could already use a dip in the cold lake. The vampire laughs quietly. Does it? We take blind steps, his back pressed to the wall, quickening his strokes. I cheers as hard as I am as he removes his grip then grinds against me, twisting my hair to keep us locked firmly together. I'm already close. So close to tipping over the beak into bliss. I tear away from his kiss and stick my nose into the bend of his neck for a deep inhale of his scent, a scent that makes me rock hard. I want you, I say in a voice that sounds thoroughly fucked out. You can have anything you want. Kale. My mind blanks out at the offer and I pull myself from my pants in time to shoot onto his shirt. Reality flashes back with heavy hits of sensations, overwhelming pleasure. The sound of Lake Megan's waves. The slight chill in the air. Distant voices on the pack trails. Lysander is still hard, desperately clamoring for release. I step away, putting inches between us. My grin is too full of pleasure to be taunting. I nod toward his bulged pants, then to the lake. His grin is sharp, sexual, the tempting grin of a vampire out for blood. Kale, he pants, licking over his well-used lips. He eyes the wet spot on his shirt and the tangled mess of my hair with a deep laugh. We need to clean up so we can go me.丨Hell be waiting for us. Lysander's fingers run through my hair as I lean into his crotch and smell him, pressing small kisses to his balls and in the crease of his thigh. It's been less than a day, I whisper, and I think you've already ruined me for anyone else. It's new, he says as if giving me an excuse. But I shake my head. It's more than that, isn't it? I say, but don't look up. I can't yet. Not with so many feelings racing to be heard, felt, and understood. Yes, and that's all I need to hear. Confirmation that I'm not wading into these depths alone. I'm so tired of having to navigate things on my own. I just want someone with me for once. We find Castle on the main trail in front of NIV's pack home. The Delta guides us to the steps of the house, and we enter past Ro, who jingles a bell while holding open the door for us with her head lowered in respectful submission. We're brought to a formal sitting room with minimal furnishings, distressed side tables and a coffee table, and to deep sofas and a matching woven print set against opposing walls. We remain standing until the Alpha enters, and I struggle to make sense of the male in front of us. Alpha NIVI is the oldest wolf 5e ever seen, with deep crest, Age, spotted skin over a frail frame. He stands tall in his human form, eyes milky and unseeing as he faces the direction of our scents in his modest pack home. He sniffs into the air toward us and moves his jaws as if luxuriation in a fine drink. You're young, Alpha, but your power is unmistakable. He sniffs deeper, his bluish lips hinting at a smile. And quite a powerful vampire you've brought with you. Our wolves can certainly keep you busy during your stay, Master Warder. His smile is grim as he adds, we surely have more need of your care than not. The elder claps his hands and takes a seat on the couch opposite us and motions for us to do the same. We are honored to have you both. It has been many years since we've hosted such impressive visitors. Anything you need, let Delta Castle know. Master Warder, you may have free use of our clinic. Since our Eamon was taken by Satos Reapers, we have been left without proper care. How long ago was that? Why, and the rest for head creases in concern. Early winter. Vampire. Not so long in the grand scheme of it all, but so long for many of those here who are in need of advanced treatment. I'd love to know of the most critical cases so that I might look them over first. Of course, Delta Castle would be happy to assist with that. But first, I would love to hear more about each of you. Starting with you, Master Lysander. I've always been quite taken with the vampire's tale of the first Master Warder. And I says, it's much more romantic than any of our Lycan lore, which always focuses on the might of the Alpha. Have you heard the version? Alpha Kale? I haven't, I say. I've mostly read case studies about warders. Nothing specific about the first occurrence. Perhaps the warder will find time to tell about your year. His eyes, though unseeing, suddenly seem to see more than I ever have. The story that most intrigues me, Master Lysander, is how you became the one known as the Ghost. A bold laugh catches in my throat. Atlas and a resinching smile. Achius impressed, not worried. My father, OMI, and I are the only ones in our pack who know for sure. Since if anyone else knew who he was, they could be pressured or, satu forbid, tortured for the information. The fewer individuals able to identify him, the better for everyone. Sensing my alarm, Lysander extends an arm along the back of the couch where his hand brushes my neck. I'm happy to tell the story. Alpha and IVI. With a brief squeeze to my shoulder, he removes his arm from around me and leans forward, elbows to knees, appearing lost to a memory. As you may know, the priestess have many spies in my coven, and I discovered one of them when I was quite young. I never told anyone about her. I never saw her as a threat. In fact, it made me feel safer from the king knowing that I had a link to the outside, a way to get word out if I needed. Sometimes, the spy would tell me things, especially if there was something that would put me in danger or in the wrong path of the king. I was already learning to be a warder then, and so was able to keep out of his way most of the time, studying at a different place on our estate. I had a private little cottage behind the chateau where I was able to experiment with different herbs sold at the markets near the Grand River. Through one of my experiments, I concocted a tonic that would trigger a response that mimicked a vampire's ability to slow its heartbeat. The same way you stay underwater for so long, I asked, remembering his concern about our sea borders. Correct. Until then, he'd never heard of a vampire able to replicate that response, especially out of water. I tested it for months on myself until I knew the exact timing of the onset, the duration of its effects, and the recovery. The priestess spy was aware of what I was doing the whole time. She and my combat partner would watch over me while I was in that state to be sure nothing went wrong. Once I had it perfected, the spy informed the priestess of my desire to leave the coven. By this time, the king had already begun infiltrating packs and was starting to use me and my partner for more questionable missions. I had two options: refuse the king's commands and die a traitor, or find a way out of the coven and attempt to undermine him from the field. And Ivia bows forward, perched on the edge of his seat, practically salivating. The priestess helped you escape. Yes, Lysander nods. Through the spy, I coordinated with the priestesses on a specific day and time that one of them would be meeting with the king. With the tonic it made, I faked my death, and Priestess Elysia Blue confirmed it on sight. Priestess Leave and Orange cast an illusion for the burning of my body, and once everyone departed the burning grounds, she snuck me away. Extraordinary. An idea says, with enough wonder to remove decades from his wrinkled appearance. Lysander studies the priest's mark on his wrist. They took me to Mount Elanty, and together we have worked to save what wolves we could. Well, I was in the thirst. And idea pats his knees in delight. Satu above. That is quite a tale. If there ever comes a time when my resources or Alan can be of service to you, Master Lysander, do not hesitate to ask. And don't worry. We'll keep your secret. I'm most grateful. Alpha. Lysander sits on the couch in our guest cottage, shirt off in the dark, mindlessly fingering the rim of an oversized mug. We opt to leave the lamp off so that we can see the starry night and obscured waves outside our picture window. What do you think about an IVI? He asks, gaze cast to the lake. I lean back in the cushioned lounger next to the front door, trying not to ogle in. HES like a contradiction to everything I'd learned about the natural order of an alpha and its pack. At first glance, it seems like he should have been overpowered or challenged for leadership years ago. But after speaking with him, I can see how HES maintained his role. I thought the same. They need help. I state yes. Lysander sips his tea and keeps his attention outside. Do you think you can send some basic resources here until they are able to fix things? Maybe, but I'm not sure it's that easy. This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. While you're staying with our pack, we'll be strong enough to leverage more resources for them. He swivels to me, his expression neutral. Your power will be strength enough. It's grown even in the past few days. It no longer merely encumbers others with its weight. It boulders over them. I have the same sense inside me as well. I let an idea call me Alpha today. I confess. I noticed. It felt right. I admit. Letting the perceived safety of Lake Megan's rolling waves draw the confession from me. As if whatever I say might be carried away and drown where I never need to hear it again. Lysander, is the reason you won't commit to me because of you being the ghost? Because if it is, I wouldn't interfere. I could help, you know. Kale. I wish it were that simple. Is it me? I ask, getting more whispered words to the water's current now. He crosses the room and kneels in front of me. I would be lucky to have you as my alpha. You're going to be brilliant. Before I can think better of it, I say as quietly as my voice will allow. I'm scared that I'll take over and our pack will get attacked. I know. He runs his hands up my thighs, steady and reassuring. I don't want anyone to get hurt because of me, because I'm not ready or as equipped as my father. I hold his eyes for strength. I'm afraid. I think that's normal. His tone is equally as quiet. You never seem afraid. I've had a lot more training than you. Fear has always been part of an average day for me. I spent most of my life thinking that King Frederick could kill me at any time. Preparing to confront my death is as commonplace as putting on a shirt. He rubs my hands after a beat of silence. What are you thinking? Kill. What do you think my alias would be if I had one? He barks out a laugh. Your mind goes strange places. Why are you thinking about that? You have a cool alias. I want a cool one too. A cool alias has to be earned and given by someone else based on a reputation. No one can give themselves a cool alias, because that would make it inherently lame. That's why I'm asking you. What would my alias be based on my reputation? He considers me with a growing smile. They call you Lucky. Lucky? No, if that's not tough sounding. You are without a doubt the luckiest being I have ever met. And I would rather head off into any mission with someone named Lucky instead of Razorbolt. Or whatever other name you think sounds tough. Lucky? Really? With a small smile, he caresses the indent in my chin. Come to bed. Speaking of getting lucky. No, he cuts me off. You can't use it as a pun. That immediately makes it uncool. When I don't answer beyond raising my middle finger, he wags his eyebrows at me. Come on. I'll let you give me a back rub. I rumble out a laugh. In your dreams, if you come in there with me, I'll get you out of your head and show you all sorts of stuff from my dreams. Really? Am I ever in one of your dreams, Master Lysander? I tease, taking my hand. He tugs me out of the chair. And I think he must be giving his own private admissions to the darkened water when he says, "Sometimes I think it's possible that you're the one who's been in all of my dreams." Lysander opens the screen door, face angled and eyes narrowed as if she is hiding something. "What's going on with you? You're up someone." The vampire steps aside and waves in a well-toned she, a female nearly our age. She looks tired, with slumped shoulders, puffy eyes, a drawn mouth. "This is she Reagan of the Glacier Ridge Pack," Lysander says, encouraging her with a comforting smile. "She wanted to talk to us." "The Glacier Ridge Pack? What is she doing here?" I offer her the chair by the door and lean against the far wall, keeping my distance, not wanting to overwhelm someone looking so fragile. She bows to me in proper greeting and lowers her compact frame onto the seat, eyes shifting between me and the water. "Alpha E and Ivy, I said that I could trust you both." She looks to Lysander and bows her head, taking several steadying breaths. "Of course," I assure her. That seems to have given her some relief if the ease of her posture is any indication. "He said to tell you what happened to my pack the night of the attack." Her eyes now swing to meet mine. My pack was small compared to many of those in the north. My Alpha Benton was only 41 and still very strong. She believed that the wolves who came into our pack did so under the directive of the council to survey our needs. She was killed in her own home while hosting them for dinner. Reagan squirms and averts her eyes, her leg bouncing with nerves. They sorted the rest of us by whatever measures they had for usefulness. The ones they declared as waste were led to the river. My 2 brothers, 3 of our friends, and I escaped from the group they wished to keep and track the others along the trails. It's our pack's land. We know how to get around on it better than any foreign elves. She looks to me, and I nod in understanding. Just as they were getting ready to drown the first of the cast-offs, the water priestess appeared as if out of nowhere, like she was made from the river. She powered a wave so high and strong that it overtook everyone near the shore's edge. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like the water embraced the wolves from my pack and drowned the handful of our enemies overseeing their deaths. Her eyes are wild now, lit with wonder at our own words and memories. "I believe you." It's Lysander who brings her back to the present, but am more hesitant to weigh in. "I'm very familiar with her power," he says, moving forward to kneel in front of the she. He clasps her hands and nods as if trying to convince her of his words. 6 of us came here to warn Alpha and Ivy and offer our protection. I'm the youngest of those of us who came. My brothers are both trained eaters, and our friends are training to be deltas. We've never met the diamonds before, but we only lived on the other side of the mountain. We know of their struggles these past years. That's good of you to come here." I say, not sure what to think of her story. "Have you heard anything from the rest of your pack that remains there?" Lysander asks in the tender tones of a healer. "No, but my brother talked to Alpha Nivi about joining the fight against the Vampire King and his allies who attacked us. He said that you might be able to help us learn how to do that." Lysander stands and crosses his arms, mouth pursed in consideration. "You wish to join the ghost?" "Yes, we've heard he is an army of wolves preparing to support a clash with the king. My brothers and I want to join." "An army of wolves?" The room tilts and my vision narrows, blackening on the edges like him on the verge of suffocation. "What the fuck?" Lysander turns to face me and darts to my side, grabbing hold of my arms to steady me. "You are brave to come here," he says to Reagan. "I can meet with you and your brothers tonight to learn more, if that would work for you. You must speak of this to no one." This happened when I was in the first or second year of junior high school. I think I was about 13 years old. I grew up in the countryside. "Of course. Thank you, Master Warder." She bows to us and escapes out the door, and I envy her for it. "You have an army of wolves?" I ask. He releases me only once, HES convinced and stable. "Kind of, yes. When we first started rescuing the exiled wolves, there were a few who desired to train to fight against the king rather than try to assimilate into another pack. We began offering the choice. Those who choose to fight live in a secure location overseen by the priestesses and have been trained by Peter. You've made a pack of warriors." Lysander cocks his head. "I never thought of it like that, but I suppose it's true. They are a pack, and they listen to Peter as an alpha. Not really. He trains them, but no one there submits to him. So who do they submit to? Who leads them? Surely, there must be a lead alpha. Otherwise there will be infighting among so many charged wolves. How do you plan to command them? As part of our bargain, your father offered to help. My father is going to lead your army. My voice is pitched so high in disbelief it scratches my throat and gives out. Lysander, this is crazy. The offer was for him. Zeta Braun. No kill. He stares at me with intention, waiting for me to save him from having to say it. My power. I breathe the words into existence. You want to use my power to unify your army. That's what all of this has been about. You're retraining me to help me realize my power so that you can use it against the king. I push up from my lean against the wall and pace. When were you going to tell me? I didn't know until right now that your father was actively keeping it from you. I assumed HET kept parts of it private. But you never brought it up, so I didn't either. I push out the door toward the rocky shore. HES instantly at my side. Kale, talk to me. What are you thinking? I feel used, unbelievably used. Why would Lenny tell me his plan? It would have changed my entire outlook on things. I could have been more involved. Why would he string me along like some clueless pawn? Maybe to keep pressure off of you. If your power stalled or you didn't take well to training, then it would let matter and you would let feel as though you let anyone down. He said he wanted us to get to know each other so that you might want to commit to me. There was never any mention of unifying an army. The wind whipping my skin sharpens my thoughts. How am I supposed to let if HES going to treat me like him, too fragile to handle failure and disappointment? HES not even giving me the chance to try. That's not supporting me. That's creating a weird alternate reality where I'm kept in the dark about what's really going on. What am I supposed to do with that? I don't know. Maybe you start by taking control of your life back and setting boundaries. And if you choose to help me, this time knowingly, then make sure it's for your own reasons, not for his, and not for mine. And if I don't help you, I test him. Will that change anything between us? Everything. He cups my face with his hands and brushes a thumb over my cheek. Then you don't. If only it was that simple. Crunching footsteps sound from the trail outside the cabin, startling me from a deep well of emotions. I turn and see Castle. Morning. Delta. I say and wave, pretending my world didn't just come crashing down. I know it's early, but Alfie and Ivy, I would like to introduce you to everyone in front of the main pack house. Let's be on it. I fight the urge to grab hold of Lysander and calm myself, and I think he can sense this as he doesn't yet step away. He allows me time to inhale his scent and settle my thoughts. Ready? Only if you are. He rubs my neck and whispers, "In here for you. Whatever you need." I let his touch soothe me, the tender back and forth, as if it could swipe away the uncertainties of my future. Whisk me away from this beach and these circumstances. Perhaps this is my reckoning. And if so, I will not shrink from it. I will be exactly who I know and meant to be. With a quick and firm grin, I say, "I'm ready. Let's go meet with the pack." The gathering and introductions quickly turn into a line of human wolves approaching Lysander with hope-filled eyes, looking for a remedy, a diagnosis, a solution to whatever ails them. The pressure must feel like a vice grip. Is this how overwhelmed other packs are that have a majority of elder wolves? It's as if Saurus Reapers rule this land instead of the life-giving goddess. Most of our male wolves look like Castle, strong and healthy. Yet he sticks out, almost as if he got lost on the way to the correct pack, overrun by zombie wolves. Lysander glances at me as the next wolf steps forward. "How much help will you permit me to give them?" he whispers, seeking my permission for the first time. And the dynamic shifts in my chest, moving something into place that soars with rightness. As much as you see is fitting. I leave the judgment to you. Gratitude lifts his lips before he turns back to the older female. "How may I help you?" Yes, say. That word. His voice uttering that simple term of endearment used by pack to address an elder female rolls through me. The fact that HES cared enough to learn it is a revelation. After each shift, the female says, "I get dizzy and nauseous and have an unbearable headache." Lysander sits on the pack house steps and waves for her to come closer. Now I level. He notes her symptoms and asks follow-up questions, and I take the opportunity to observe from behind, cataloging the range of needs, the severity of some making my gut twist with helplessness, and a fury aimed at the council for letting things get this bad. How did this happen? It seems like hours pass by the time Lysander sidles up to me, taking a break to stretch his muscles and drink water. I check him for signs of exhaustion and rub my hands down the sides of his neck, trailing my scent near his pulse points. What are you thinking? I ask. I don't envy Alpha and I not with the lack of pups, not with the early cold snap due this fall, not with the scarcity of traded goods and markets, not with the lack of care available, and not with his meager prospects for a successor. I run my hands down his arms, taking it all in. Is that all? His lips quirk in response. They need an Eamon and more Gamma S to start, I say, thinking how essential OMI is daily for our pack and how crucial our Gamma S are for providing fresh meat during the long northern winters. They need more than that, he says. That will delay some catastrophes, but it won't fix the crux of their issues. No, but it could help them prepare for and get through the winter. Give them time to evaluate so that they can get back onto steady ground come spring. Lysander tips his head in thought. What concerns me most are their crops and markets. They have few who are able to fully tend to them as needed. Few shipments coming up the lake. Kassem and the handful of others of his caliber can't possibly do everything themselves. I look down and kick at the ground, aiming my ire at the rocks beneath my feet. How many other packs near us do you think are in similar states as this? I don't understand how this happened. The warder shakes his head. Sharp hazel eyes assessing the crowd. Who's to know? The council is too overwhelmed to properly keep track, and with King Frederick influencing the vampires on it, and with Saturn knows how many wolves under his control, this could be part of a long game to weaken certain packs that they intend to take over. The diamonds are isolated up here, and with no uncorked strolling body to complain to. What options do they have besides toughing it out and hoping for the best? What good is a council if it results in this? I see. He lifts his shoulder in a slight shrug. If we succeed, hopefully it won't be that way for much longer. I lean in to say more, but Lysander looks past me, forces a grin, then nods at Alpha NIVI as he nears us through the crowd. The Alpha hitches along with a staff and his serving roll latched to his arm. Honored Alpha and Master Warder, you are very generous with your time. I bow. We're happy to help. Alpha, it means more than I can say. The Elder replies. We felt quite hopeless at times. It is no secret that I will not be around for many more years, and the decline of our packs is heavy upon me. He rests his weight on the top of his staff and turns to face Lysander. Even without sight, I can see your passion for healing. It is an extraordinary thing. To help others so greatly to save a life. It is. I agree. Making Lysander shoot his eyes to me from such direct praise. Thank you. Alphas. Alpha ENIVI. I pause, unsure of how to diplomatically ask. Do you think there is something he might be able to do for your vision? The old male laughs. I'm afraid my sight is far too gone for that now. And I suppose of all the senses to have lost, I've made my peace with it being this one. Better I think than having no outward voice and terminally imprisoned in my wolf form such as the sacred Omegaverse. I blink in surprise, having never thought of the Omega as anything but blessed. Beacons of peace and joy. Yet it is all in service to others. To their pack. And no name. I whisper without giving the gravity of the statement much forethought. Yes, the Elder Alpha solemnly agrees. No identity at all really. Beyond that of their attached Alpha. His cloudy eyes find me somehow and sympathy forms in the cracks on his face. It is a great responsibility you've been given. You're the only way that your Omega can put voice to her own words and, in turn, deeply affect the pack. There must be absolute trust on her part. I cannot imagine ever being so vulnerable. His words, in a state of vulnerability, shake me. She will help you lead with both heart and mind. She will steady you, and be the force of calm that I've so wished for in my years leading the diamonds. He lifts snobby fingers toward my face, and I lean in so he can explore my features. With a tender pat on my shoulder, he says, I think if you continue to rely on your generous spirit, have faith in the master water, and trust the instincts of your Omega, you could become the greatest alpha wolves have ever seen. It is a burdensome honor. It is a power that could tempt the most steadfast of beasts. He extends a hand toward my chest. You have a strong heart, and you will know when you have strayed off course. I think you will feel it deeply. My advice to any alpha is this: listen to your pack, stay connected to your humanity, and remember you must live among your wolves, not above them. The weight of my blessings sits on me like a mountain as I bow and say, thank you, Alpha. He taps the arm of the slender female row at his side and motions toward his home. It is time for my rest. Please enjoy the afternoon. My vampire faces me and places his hands on my shoulders. Let's take a walk, Kale. I want to see more of their land. You'd like to visit their pack homes as well. Lysander puts a hand in my hair and draws me toward him so he can press a kiss to my temple. He catches me off guard and makes my heart flutter, a rhythm that feels dangerously like falling. I think it's a good start. Lucky. Taking his hand, I stare at our linked fingers before I lift them to my mouth and kiss his knuckles. Me too.